I was actually working at building a cable company in Los Angeles. I moved out to California when I was recruited to come and build a cable system in Los Angeles, which was going to be the first 61 channel two-way cable system ever built.
How difficult was that to make your first million?
We thought we were really smart and we wrote a business plan and we went out. We were rejected over 100 times.
Did your family support you in your vision?
Not at all. 25 years old, they made me the director of operations of the biggest cable company in the United States. I had a clear career path, and people don't realize because he is, it's a monster now. We're in 142 countries, and the valuation of sub up around 10 billion. But he started with 11 employees and 31 interns. Don't listen to the people who tell you that you got to follow your passion. But ultimately, we all have the same necessities of life. So I always tell people, find something that you're good at and then work your butt off and become great at it.
Big dreams don't come quietly. They demand risk, they demand fire, they demand crazy transformation. Welcome to The Corporate Life, hosted by Hina Siddiqui, CEO and founder of Corporate Influence Media and creator of the Let's Make You Famous 90-Day Celebrity Campaign and media strategist featured across 600 plus global outlets. Join us as we sit with million-dollar entrepreneurs, tech CEOs, and celebrities who share the scenes that shape them. Here, success isn't a headline. It's a human story. The turning points, reinventions, failures, breakthroughs, and bold decisions behind their rise. Because your life is a movie too, and you're the star of yours.
Before reality TV, before social media, before celebrity became currency, he built E Entertainment Network, a platform where celebrities could be seen 24/7, and turned an unproven idea into a $10 billion media empire. No competitors, only the risk of being first. Today I'm talking to Larry Namer, and this is his movie. Larry, what were you chasing before E became glamorous?
Oh, I was actually working at building a cable company in Los Angeles.
Okay. So, what exactly was going on in your life at that time?
Well, I moved out to California from New York when I was recruited to come and build a cable system in Los Angeles, which was going to be the first 61 channel two-way cable system ever built. Um, and they wanted everything to go underground. They didn't want things to go on telephone poles like rural cable systems. And I had been the director of operations at Manhattan Cable, and Manhattan Cable was the only big cable system that was built entirely underground. So I got recruited to come out here, and I was 30 years old, and I was put in charge of the biggest cable system built in the country.
Yeah. So that was the time when cable TV was, I think, just coming up in the world. Was that the time?
Well, cable was around, but it was mainly used as good reception to get better reception in rural areas. But, kind of in the late 70s, early 80s was kind of when the renaissance of cable programming networks started. That's when you saw, CNN and MTV and ESPN, and then E followed, in the mid 80s.
Yeah, yeah. So you created a category. I think nothing of that sort ever existed before that. Like you got that, like you created that platform where celebrity culture became very obvious for people. Like they just could live inside of that 24/7. So how difficult was that to make your first million in that kind of different realm? Because people did not know anything about it. You had the vision, but they did not.
No, that's true. Well, it was Alan, my partner, Alan Marufka, and I, my business partner. Um, we came up with the concept. Was saying, cable TV was sort of we looked at it as an electronic newspaper. CNN was the headlines, and ESPN was the sports, uh, and the Home Shopping Network was the ads. But what we felt was obviously missing was the second most read section in the Sunday newspaper, which was the entertainment pages. So we thought we were really smart, and we wrote a business plan, and we went out, and we were rejected over 100 times. Um, Everybody said, it's not a bad idea, but people don't start TV networks. you got to be a big media company. You got to be Fox. You got to be Disney. You can't just wake up and say you want to start a TV network. So it took us about 3.5 years before we raised the first 10 cents. And it was kind of an unusual story because uh, we were almost ready to give up. And we met uh, a guy on Wall Street who, when we had the meeting with him, it was kind of odd because he had like movie posters on the wall of his office. And, we said, oh, I used to be the editor of my college newspaper, and I really love this and I want to do it. And at that time, the going amount of money needed to start a TV network was somewhere between 60 and $100 million. And after 3.5 years of raising nothing, we realized nobody was giving us that money. And this guy said, you know what? I really love it. I want to do it. And I said, great. Can you give us more like the 100 million so we could do everything that we have planned? And he went, well, no, I'm only allowed to sign for 2.5. And I said, 2.5? I said, I can't even buy the cameras for 2.5 million. But Alan and I looked at each other and said, you know what? After 3.5 years, we'll take the 2.5. We'll figure it out. So literally, he gave us $2.5 million. And I had a friend that was teaching radio, television, and film at University of Texas in Austin. And I called him up and said, Brian, do you have kids that need summer intern jobs? And he said, yeah, we had a lot of trouble placing this year. I said, great, send me all you got. So he actually sent us 31 interns from Texas. And people don't realize, because he is, it's a monster now. We're in 142 countries, and the valuation of around 10 billion or something like that. But he started with 11 employees and 31 interns.
Wow. Yeah. So how difficult was it to train intern about that, because they are not trained for the job?
No, it was actually really, it was very fortuitous because, neither Alan or I came out of like the mainstream media world. And, we didn't know what the rules were. So we couldn't play by the rules because we didn't know what they were. The same thing. The interns were giving us fresh ideas, and, they weren't prohibited by what used to be. They were going, hey, let's try this, let's try that. I mean, they were really excited. It was interesting because my friend Brian wanted to kill me because, those interns, 31 started the summer as interns and as soon as the network went on the air, we grew amazingly fast. By the end of the summer, half of the interns were vice presidents.
That's interesting, and relate with you a little bit, because what we are doing at Corporate Influence Media is like we are working with IT CEOs and founders, and the idea is to make them industry celebrities. So this is a very new thing. I think no PR agency has done it ever in terms of that particular category. Like there are a lot of standalone articles and media coverage, but then this is a very kind of story that unfolds in the 90 days period. So I understand that there's a lot of resistance. People don't receive that idea very well because they can't see what we see, right? As we are founding something very interesting and new.
Yeah, I mean, it's really odd because for us, it was very obvious. Um, people say, when did you know you were on the right track? And I said, from the day we had the idea. Again, you look at, the fact that MTV started, and, we said we could be, MTV is the music. We could be that to celebrities and film and television and all of that stuff. And, when you looked at the similarities, at the early days of MTV, they would stand the host in front of a green screen and, they point to the screen and go, and Madonna has a new video. I said, hey, we could get movie trailers from the studio, and we could have a host stand in front of a green screen and go, and Schwarzenegger has a new movie. It was essentially the same kind of thing MTV was doing, just we took it into a whole new sphere of business and genre.
Yeah, that's very interesting and that's very unique. Starting something which nobody else is doing. And I have heard a few of your interviews, and I know that you don't believe in follow the passion kind of work. So what actually inspired you to do that?
Um, we, I I moved out here from New York. I moved out to LA and, I got used to the beautiful weather and stuff, and I wanted to stay out here. And I got recruited by a Canadian company, but they sold the company and they moved back to Toronto. And I said that, I didn't move from New York to LA to go to Toronto. I said, I'm done with cold. So Alan and I just played with ideas, said, let's come up with an idea so we could stay in California. Alan was also from the East Coast and he didn't want to go back. So, we just kept going around with the idea. And, the more we started planning it, the more obvious it became to us. We said, people around the world loved celebrities and Hollywood gossip and movies. And, it was very obvious to us, although it didn't seem like it was obvious to everybody else.
Yeah. So, was there any thought behind it that okay, I want to prove something to somebody, or was there something like that going on in your mind that time?
No, not really. I mean, it was funny because there were three partners, Alan and I, and we actually had another partner. And he basically said to us, he goes, I think you guys are crazy. We've been at this for 3 years. Nobody's ever going to put money in. It's not really a good idea. Maybe it should just be a TV show. And we said, no, no, no. And he said, fine, buy me out. And we did, and silly him, he sold out his, 30% share in the network for like $12,000.
Yeah, that it was a lot of money at that time, I guess.
Well, not, you know, uh, big mistake on his part.
So, did your family support you in your vision?
Not at all. Um, my parents, the family basically uh, descended were from Turkish immigrants, and their aspiration for their children was get a civil service job, security, and be able to retire at 65 and stuff like that. So no, they never understood what I was doing and why I was doing it.
Yeah. So, did they understand it later, like when you made it finally?
My dad never really did. Um, my mom didn't at first. I mean, she would be out here, and she would come and visit me in California and literally would knock on my door at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay, what time do you need to be up for work? Um, without understanding that I really never had to be up for work if I didn't want to be. So yeah, but then when she started to meet celebrities and go to some things and stuff, and all of a sudden see that you know uh, this was her connection to the world of that she never dreamed of, then it started to sink in a little.
Yeah, yeah. It changes after we actually show that, like, we have done it. Then your family starts believing in that. It happens like old school thought that do a certain kind of job and just retire at a certain age, and that's your life.
Yeah, that's exactly the way the family was. I was the first kid to go to college in the family and stuff like that. So it was all pretty brand new. I mean, to them and me.
Yeah. Larry, what was the riskiest decision you made before E became E?
What was what? I didn't.
What was the riskiest decision? What was the most risky decision you made before that?
I was very, I worked in Manhattan Cable and I had a very good job. I was, 25 years old. They made me the director of operations of the biggest cable company in the United States. And, very secure, and Time Incorporated, which was a publishing company. I bought it and, I had a clear, career path. Um, but then when this company started calling me to try and recruit me to come to California, ultimately that was probably the riskiest thing I've done ever.
Mm, yeah. So, was there a night you thought this could fail?
No, no, never. I love, Alan and I still to this day, we go, how hard was it to figure out that people around the world love Hollywood celebrities and Hollywood gossip? It's not rocket science.
Yeah, that I get it. Like that is the vision that you need to first believe in your vision, then before the world does.
Yeah, people never really understood it. And people would say to us, you're not Rupert Murdoch, you can't start a TV network. And then, then they were going, well, if it was such a good idea, how come Disney didn't do it and stuff like that? And, like I say, when we started, there is an advantage sometimes of not knowing all the rules. Um, because when you look at it, we started off, we had great traction. As soon as we went on the air, people said, "Oh my God, that's what you wanted to do. You should have told us. We would have given you the money 3 years ago." And we literally grew in the first year to 14 other countries. We were the fastest growing cable network in the world. And, it was just, the growth spurt was amazing. And, we literally went from the 11 employees to 1,100 employees. And
Wow, that's really impressive.
yeah.
And then scaling your media company to $7 billion is a big deal. Like it's not, and starting something which was nobody else did that before, and that going to that level is really huge.
Yeah. And I think that the latest I heard was the valuation's up around 10 billion now.
Oh
So,
wow, amazing! Congratulations.
yeah, I mean, unfathomable numbers, we weren't thinking that we would ever grow that big,
Yeah,
but we just knew we were onto the right thing. And like I say, sometimes it's better not to know all the rules, because the first show that we had, real show, that broke through was called Talk Soup. And, when we told our crew, we said, we want to do a TV show that makes fun of TV shows. And they were like, "Larry, you can't do that. You can't make fun of the other TV shows." And we were like, "Why not?" We thought some of them were pretty funny. And, when it went on the air, people were amazed. They go, "Oh my God, I can't believe I couldn't imagine anybody ever put something like this on television." And that show ran 26 years.
wow. That's really inspiring. Like people, you're inspiring a lot of people by saying that because, I mean, anybody can do anything if they believe in their vision, right? And it takes a little bit of recipe, of course, and that recipe is never standard. Everything, like everybody has their own unique way of doing things. But then, of course, like the common thing is that vision and your belief in that vision.
Absolutely. I mean, from the day we came up with the idea, when people were saying, oh my God, Al and I just looked at each other and go, this was not rocket science. It was so obvious to us.
Yeah, yeah. I really love that. Larry, what surprised you most about the celebrities when you met them privately?
Um, Most of them, and one of the things that really helped me a lot is we were in awe of celebrities. And, when you're Entertainment Tonight and you could give people 20 seconds on TV, you have to be very, very tight and concise in what you ask. When you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we were like, we didn't care what Tom Cruise next movie was. We were like, Tom, we want to know what you're doing with the kids this weekend. And, we dealt with celebrities as people, and they loved it. I mean, they were so welcoming of people just asking them about them as people rather than them as celebrities and stuff. That, we would get calls all the time. So, with people in town saying, "Hey, I'll be in Hollywood. Would you like me to guest host?" And we just had an amazing guest host. They would just literally come to the studios and go on air because it was a very comfortable, nice place for them to be. And they used to talk about the things that interested them, not so much about, the next project, because when you only have 20 seconds, you got to be very pointed. But 24 hours a day, you could really delve into people in their lives.
Exactly. Yeah. So, did Hollywood ever disappoint you?
Back then, no. Um, now I think Hollywood has changed dramatically. And if I think, um, and then not necessarily for bad or good, but, everything has got to be these big tentpole movies, the Spider-Mans and stuff like that. I like the days when we had better, smaller, independent films, and I found those more interesting and stuff. Um, but we were some of the things we did, which really set us apart. As odd as it may seem, when we started, there were no TV networks that were headquartered in Hollywood, but yet everybody thought of Hollywood as the center of the entertainment. But when we started and we took offices in Hollywood, the city loved us and stuff. And, they would invite us to all their, Walk of Fame events and stuff like that and stuff. We celebrated the industry. We didn't, now you've got things like TMZ, which, try and find like salacious stories of someone cheating on their wife and stuff. We never really looked at that. We just really looked at celebrating celebrity for being people.
Yeah, this is beautiful. Larry, success always asks something in return. What price did you pay?
Well, I didn't spend enough time with the family that I should have. I mean, because, literally, the growth spurt was enormous and, we were working, when we first went on the air, we pulled the switch and we went live and, I went, finally, now we're on the air. Thank God. And somebody just looked at me and they said, Larry, now you got to do it 24 hours a day for the rest of your life. It's hard to run a 24-hour network, because you've got to set up systems, which is very hard. You're manufacturing a product, but you're not going to see most of the product that you're manufacturing because you can't watch 24 hours a day of television.
Yeah, correct.
So you really had to hire very well and people that were of like mind and people that you could trust to say, hey, you're going to program 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock at night. I'm never going to see it because hopefully I can go to sleep. And just have the trust in them that they were going to be able to do the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. Larry, now I would like to play a game with you, and we have started playing this game for the past few episodes, and it's like this or that. It's one of my favorite games, and I would give you two options. You just need to pick one, and this would help you understand better your personality. So, are you ready for that?
Sure.
Get ready for the ultimate challenge, this or that. Choose fast, trust your instincts, and let's go.
Whiskey or vodka?
Vodka.
Neat or on the rocks?
What was the first one?
Neat or on the rocks?
First one, yeah. Not orthodox.
Late nights or early mornings?
Late night.
Mountain or ocean?
Ocean.
Silence or sound?
Sound.
Instinct or data?
Instinct.
Past or possibility?
Possibility.
Leading from the front or behind the scenes?
Behind.
Ambition or peace?
Ambition.
Great, and you were very clear about that. You played really well, and I hope that we were sitting in person and I could give you a gift hamper for this.
You bet.
What's next in your movie, Larry?
Well, I've always had this feeling that when you really looked at Hollywood, then you looked at 100 years ago, if you wanted to make visual entertainment, you had to come physically to Hollywood to do it. You picked stages, you needed expensive equipment. But as technology kept bringing down those barriers to doing things, I always said that the Hollywood will become more of a state of mind, a level of creativity, a level of quality, and not necessarily the geographic place you had to come to. And I think that's pretty much come true. I could take my iPhone to Africa tomorrow and make a movie on my iPhone. Quite honestly, the camera in my iPhone is better than the first cameras we ever had at E. I really looked at the international markets and saying they may not be here today, but this is going to come. And that's why one of the reasons E is so widely distributed is because I really believed in foreign markets. And E today is in 142 countries. I mean, next to CNN, it's the largest cable network in the world. So I've been spending time. I did a lot of stuff in Russia. I actually had a big music festival there for a whole number of years. It was a charity. We raised money for the Children's Hospital and the orphanage. I had the #1 TV show in Russia for 11 years. Not with E. Even though I was still at E, I was doing stuff, independently through, my personal company. And then I went off to China, and I still am very active in China, doing TV, film, immersive, concerts. You name it, we do it in China.
Interesting. So you were writing a book. Is it out?
Yeah, I wrote a book last, actually, it's not a year yet. Um, the book is called Off Script Recipes for Success. And it's a funny book. People have been after me to write this book for the longest time because I have a lot of really crazy stories. And I always resisted saying, you know what? I'm not ready to write a last chapter, so I'm not going to write the book. But then, um, 2 years ago, my daughter had a baby. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write this book so that my grandbaby gets to be able to read about grandpa from his own voice. And so, but I realized that you could pretty much take my career and divide it into 8 different parts, or my life, my growing up in Brooklyn years, my Manhattan cable years, my Valley cable years in LA, my E years, my Russia years, my China years. Um, and so I divided up my life into 8 parts. And what I do is I put the stories that happened during those different times, but I match it with the recipes that inspired me during those, because I'm a dramatic wannabe chef. I've always loved, I've been cooking since I'm 12. My both parents work, so I had to learn how to cook, or, I would eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner. And so I just made the book. So it's somewhere between a memoir and a cookbook.
That's very interesting blend, memoir and the cookbook. And for somebody who is in the celebrity kind of business.
Yeah, no, I don't know if anybody else has ever done a book quite like it. But the book opened very, very well. It hit the bestseller list very quickly. And so, it continues to do well. And, I get a lot of people who've read the book ask me to come and speak at different events. So it's been good.
Great. Larry, if your life is a movie, which we believe that every life is, what is the title of your movie?
Um, I never follow the crowd.
Yeah, I love that. If you would need to leave the world with one message, what would that be?
Um, don't listen to the people who tell you that you got to follow your passion. Following your passion, or really, I think a lot of people confuse their passion really for what their hobby is. Um, and their ego doesn't let them put it aside. But ultimately, we all have the same necessities of life. We got to buy food, we got to feed the kids and dress them, we got to pay the rent and stuff. So I always tell people, find something that you're good at and then work your butt off and become great at it. That'll become your passion, and that'll provide you with the financial wherewithal to be able to pursue your hobbies.
Yeah. So your zone of genius, like this is where you should be, and you should build your profession around that.
Absolutely. It gives you the fuel to be able to pursue the things that you really are passionate about without worrying that you're going to be out in the street next week.
Yes, right. And for those who want to follow your movie, how can they connect with you?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, Larry Namer TV, or at Larry Namer TV. Facebook, just Larry Namer. Um, those are the easiest ways to connect with me.
Thank you for your time today. It was a very fun conversation. I really loved it.
All righty. Well, thanks for having me. Take care.
This is The Corporate Life. More stories, more insight, more truth. Until the next episode, stay curious. Don't forget to subscribe.